Well, good morning, everyone. Or good evening, depending on where you are. I'm so glad that you could come to this webinar that we've organized about the Trent ESL placement test. And you will experience that placement test soon. You may be noticing in the chat, Bernard is in the background. He's pretending that he's not here, but he is really here. Bernard is in the background and he's chatting to you all because he's the one who really organized this. I just get to speak to you. And so Bernard is encouraging you that if you have questions, you could put them in the chat box, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to chat and ask questions at the end. There's another person here. Oh, I guess I haven't really introduced myself. My name is Glenda Fish. So I'm the manager of ESL. I look after, well, you know, the program. So I look after all, my official title is Operations and Academic Manager. So that means I look after all of the organizational things to do with the program. And it means that I also look after what happens in the classrooms, the academic part of the program. And other people like Bernard look after actually finding the students. So that's me. I'm Glenda Fish. I used to teach in the program, so I know the program very, very well. And I know the placement test very well, which we'll talk about in a moment. There is another person here, and that is Christine Williams. And Christine is our Operations and Academic Administrative Assistant. And she organizes things. She creates class lists. She sends you emails. She reminds me about things. So that's Christine's job. And I think Christine wants to give you, she reminds me of things. I think she wants to give you a reminder too. So I'm going to turn things over to Christine for a moment.
I'll just take up a minute of your time and then I'll be in the background with Bernard. Well, in my own house. Hi, everybody. So just a little bit about me. I actually started out as a Trent student a long time ago, and I loved Trent so much that I didn't want to leave, so I got a job at Trent. And now my job is to help run the ESL program. So you get a lot of email from me, and I'm always here. If you need me, just send me an email. I will have Zoom links for orientation as well, so you can log in and we can chat face to face, which would be really great because I'd love to see you. But what I wanted to remind you is that I've sent out a few emails, and thank you so much if you filled out the survey letting us know how you plan to attend ESL. But I also really need you to register for course sites. So there was a link in one of the emails. I'll see if I can put it in the chat when Glenda gets started. I don't want to distract anybody. But if you can set up your course sites account in there, you'll be able to see the orientation schedule as soon as we have it finished. I've got a student handbook in there for you to read. There's other information about Trent that you just might want to see that maybe you haven't found on our website or that you haven't had a chance to ask us yet. So I'm going to turn off my camera and I'm going to look up that link for you, and I'm going to put it in the chat so that you can set your own course sites account up today. And hopefully I will meet you all soon, okay?
And just one little reminder that I will just emphasize, there's one of you, and I'm not going to name who, but one of you hasn't completed the survey that Christine sent out recently. So we really want to know, it will really help us with our planning, where you are and in what way you intend to study. So do you intend to study in person on campus? Do you intend to study online full days, or do you intend to study online half and half? So a little bit with the class and a little bit on your own. So it would be helpful if you would let us know all that information. Okay, thank you very much, Christine. And at the end of my presentation, I will share with you our email addresses. Okay, so now I'm going to share, whoops, I'm on the, so there, I'm right at the end where I have Christine and my email addresses. So here I'm going to share a little presentation with you now. And so we'll just work our way through this. This is sort of the meat of the matter for today, which is the Trent ESL placement test. Okay, so let's get started. So why do we offer the placement test? Well, for some of you, we really want to find out your level and where you fit in our program. As you probably know, we have a 5-level program, and so we want to know which of those 5 levels would be best for you. And we also want to learn more about your English language skills. So when we look at the test, we'll be able to see, oh, this person's writing skills are strong, and maybe their reading skills are a little weaker, or the other way around, that sort of thing. We'll be able to find out, you know, what your strengths and weaknesses are as an English language learner. So what is the placement test? Well, our placement test, this is the Trent ESL placement test that I'm talking about, is a 2-part test. Part 1 is the Oxford online placement test. So we use somebody else's placement test for that. And we find that it's very helpful, and I'll talk to you about that in a moment. And then part 2 is our own creation, a Trent ESL writing test. And so for us, each part of the test is worth 50%. So we will take your score from the Oxford test, and that'll be worth 50%, and we'll take your score from the Trent ESL writing test, and that will be 50%, and then together we will figure out which level you belong in. And I just want to make a special note that this fall, because of the situation that we're in, because of COVID, both parts of the test will be done online, and that will be while an instructor watches on Zoom. So, you know, there will be somebody watching you complete both parts of the test, but we will be doing them online instead of in a classroom like we would if we were on campus. Okay, so let's talk about part 1 first. And so that's the Oxford online test. I noticed that lately they're calling it the Oxford placement test. So anyway, the online test has computer questions based on grammar, vocabulary, and the ability to understand English in real world situations. And so often the questions have like a little scenario or something, and you have to understand, oh, what is it that they're really talking about? And so most of the questions are multiple choice, and with some fill in the blank. A very special thing about this test is that it's adaptive. So what happens in the test is that at the beginning, it'll give you 1 or maybe 2 questions, and then the test will start to analyze you a little bit. So if you got those questions right, it will say, oh, this person is at a higher level than these questions, and it will start giving you more difficult questions. And it'll just keep giving you more difficult questions and more difficult questions until you start getting them wrong, and then it will make them a little easier. And gradually, you know, it'll sort of go up and down, and it'll figure out, oh, this is where this student is. And likewise, if you answer the first couple of questions incorrectly, you get them wrong, then it'll say, oh, these questions are a little too difficult. Let's make them a little easier. And it'll start making some easier questions and some easier questions and some easier questions. And then, oh, you're starting to get them all right. So now we understand your level a little better. So that's what it means by an adaptive test. It's a SMART test. It can adapt to where you are at. Now, here's a really important point, and that is that you have to complete the test in 75 minutes. So you have to kind of keep your eye on the time just a little bit. I think it will remind you of the time, but you have to just keep that in mind. And because a terrible thing happens, if you don't complete the test and the 75 minutes finishes, then your mark is 0. And so you really have to try to complete the test in time. Now, I will tell you, most students can complete the test in 50 minutes. So don't worry about the odd time someone runs over the 75 minutes, and then that's a difficult thing. So the test questions, a little more detail about the test questions. So there's two kinds of test questions. There's a section in the Oxford test called Use of English. And so there they're looking for the correct word or grammar point. You know, so maybe there will be a sentence or a little conversation, and they're looking to see if you know which word should go in that sentence or which tense the word should be in, something like that. And then there are some listening questions. And so there will be a question. Usually it invites you to read the question first, and then you click a little button, and then you can hear maybe a little piece of a conversation or something. And then you say, oh, the answer to that question is C or A or whatever. Overall, usually there are 42 to 46 questions. I don't know why it varies a little bit. Maybe it's because it's adaptive and it takes, you know, a little time for it to figure out what your level is. But usually you have about 45 questions. And of those 45 questions, usually about 30 are use of English and about 15 are listening. Okay, so I don't know how well you can see this. I hope you can see it. And so here we're looking at a screenshot. We're going to work our way through about 3 of these, I think, of different questions, sample questions. So I don't know if you can see, but it actually, here we can see use of English, section 1, approximately 30 questions. Okay, so then we have the instructions. Read the dialogue, then select the correct answer from the options below. Okay, so the man says, have you seen the newspaper? The woman says, sorry, it's in my bag. So then you have to look at, oops, what happened? Then you have to look at what does the man mean? A, where's the newspaper? Have you read the newspaper? Or what's in the newspaper today? Well, I think that by this conversation, sorry, it's in my bag, it probably means where is the newspaper? Okay, and so if you answered A correctly, then maybe because the test is adaptive, the next question would be a little more difficult. But if you answered B or C, and so that would be an incorrect answer, then maybe the next question would be a little easier. Okay, here's another one. Select a word or phrase to complete the conversation shown below. Okay, so the man says, the theater is really crowded tonight. And the woman says, yes, I'm not even sure that I want to see this movie anymore. Okay, so here's the sentence. But it, something, be really good. Look at all these people. But it can be really good. But it must be really good. Look at all these people. I think that's it. But it couldn't be really good. No. But it wouldn't be really good. No. So it must be B. It must be really good. Look at all these people. Okay, and the next one. Select a word or phrase to complete the conversation. Shown below. Okay, similar. Has Julia something her new email address yet? Okay. Has Julia given you her new email address? Yes, the person when they took the screenshot had already highlighted the right answer. And then yes, we can't see the next sentence very well right now. But So hopefully that gives you an idea of the kinds of questions that you'll see in the use of English. Now, in the listening section, you will be able to listen to each section twice, or that should say each question or each selection, the listening twice. Okay, and the questions are similar to the use of English questions. So, maybe there'll be a little conversation, like the newspaper question. Have you seen the newspaper? And then, sorry, it's in my bag. And then you would see those answers. So instead of reading the conversation, you would hear the conversation, but you would see the answers. And then you would be able to select the right one. Okay, so some tips for success. One, don't focus on the pictures. Here, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to show you. See this one here? Have you seen the newspaper? Sorry, it's in my bag. Well, if you look at the picture, it's not the right picture for that conversation. And it's almost like they are looking at a newspaper together in that picture. So I think the picture is actually a little misleading. It's not helpful to you. So I think really it's much better to look at the words and not really at the picture. I think the pictures are there to make it, I don't know, a little bit interesting or something, but sometimes I think they're a little misleading. They're not helpful. So focus on the words. Another tip for success, make sure you finish on time. Make sure you finish under 75 minutes. So if you're at 42 questions and it's, 65 or 70 minutes, just hurry through those last questions because you need to finish it and not get zero. Okay, so if you want to learn more about the Oxford test, you can go to their website. It's just Oxford English Testing, and then you go to find out more and the Oxford Placement Test. If you want to take a screenshot of this slide, maybe that would be a good thing today. Or if you want to, take a photo of this slide, that might be a good thing to do, and then you could look it up later. I'm going to show you that at the end of my presentation, but I don't want to go out of my presentation and then show you that and come back. So I'll show you that a little later. Okay, so part 2 is the writing test. And so you are going to write a paragraph or a short essay based on an article. And so what happens is that you write part 1 first, and then we know your score. And based on your score, we say, everybody below this point writes the beginner writing test, and everybody above this point writes the advanced writing test. So we'll give you a beginner writing test or an advanced writing test. But they're similar. Okay, so here are the steps. Here are the things that you should do when you take the writing test. Read the article. Okay, so even though we call it a writing test, it's a little bit of a reading test too. So you have to read the article and understand the article. Then you need to read the instructions for the writing, including the tasks. Okay, and so there will be instructions, and by tasks we mean like the question, the thing that you are asked to do. And then you will write a paragraph or an essay. And you will do that in 60 minutes. We'll give you 1 hour for part 2. Okay, so a little more information about the nature of the reading, or what the reading is like, and the question. Okay, so if you do the beginner reading test, it will be, say, a 1-page reading about probably a Canadian person, place, or experience, something to do. Okay, a famous Canadian person, or a famous Canadian place, or a famous thing that Canadians do, something like that. And then we're going to ask you to do 2 things. One, we'll ask you to write a paragraph to summarize the reading. In other words, a paragraph to tell us what you understood about the reading. We want you to tell us in your own words about the reading. And then the second thing that we're going to ask you to do is to write a paragraph or even a small essay, a few paragraphs about something similar in your country. So if we had you read about a Canadian person, then we would ask you to, a famous Canadian person, we would ask you to write about a famous Canadian person, like the one that we read. Maybe if we had you read about a famous Canadian doctor, we would say, oh, write about a doctor in your country or something. Something like that, or a place, we'd say, oh, maybe, I don't know, we write about a lake in our country. We'd say, okay, write about some water or something in your country. So that's the kind of thing that we would do in the beginner test. In the advanced test, it's pretty similar. The reading will be a little longer and it will be a little more difficult. It won't be quite an academic reading, but it will be a reading from a quality news magazine or a quality kind of magazine. So for example, Maclean's is a good Canadian news magazine. It could be from something like Forbes, the business magazine Forbes, or it could be maybe Time, or National Geographic, some quality magazine like that. And we would have, maybe a 1.5 page reading, not too long, but not too short. And then there's a 2-part essay question. And it'll be something like this. It will say, for example, what is the author's opinion in that magazine article that you just read? And do you agree with this opinion? Why or why not? Okay. And so, what we're doing here is a little bit similar to in the beginner test. We want to know, did you understand the article? But then also we want to know, how you interact with the article. Because that's something that you will be asked to do in degree studies, is to be able to express opinions and to interact with readings and lectures and so on. So we want to see how you can interact with, say, a Maclean's article. Can you give an opinion about it, and can you say why you have this opinion? Okay, so here are some tips for success on part 2. I think it's really important to read the test instructions and the tasks before reading the article. And in fact, I'm sure that the instructor who gives you the test will do that with you. And so take a minute to think about what the instructions are asking you to do. And so actually, the instructor will do that before the test. But you might want to do it again in the first minute of the test or something. And then watch your time. And so here's a little suggestion for maybe how you could use your time. You could skim and scan the article for ideas for the questions. You may not have time to read every word and understand every word, but you want to read enough that you get the idea. And so maybe you'll spend up to 10 minutes on that. Then you want to spend a little time thinking about your writing, planning your writing. Think about, okay, if you're doing the beginner test, what are you going to write in each paragraph? Or if you're writing the advanced test, okay, plan out your essay. What are you going to say in each paragraph of your essay? What will your thesis be? And so, maybe spend up to 10 minutes planning. But don't spend the time writing a rough draft. Some students try to write a first copy and then I'll write it again, but don't do that. Just write. Then, you know, spend most of your time writing. So maybe 35 minutes or even 40 minutes writing. And then don't forget to check your writing. Maybe you'll spend, you know, 5 minutes or even 3 minutes at the end, just going over your writing, making sure you've spelled things correctly, making sure you haven't, you know, left out a word or something like that. Okay, so here's some more tips. Um, it's a good idea to summarize the information from the article in your own words, whether that's for the beginner test or the advanced test. In both cases, you will be referring to the article in some way. So it's a good idea if you can do that in your own words. But if you do want to use some words from the article, use quotation marks, okay, to acknowledge that you took those words from the article. And also, it's worth remembering that writing is marked for content, organization, and language. That's how we mark the writing. Okay, so here are some final words of advice about the Trent ESL placement test. My first word of advice is don't worry. This is not the kind of test where you can spend hours and hours. Oh, I have to learn all my grammar. I have to study this. No, it's not that kind of test. Really, the test just tests what you already know. And so, you know, sleep well the night before. Don't get yourself all worked up about this. Just take the test. Show us what you know. Another thing that I want you to know is that there will be a workshop before each part of the test. So before you take part one, the instructor who is giving that part of the test will walk you through a little workshop. You'll see a little video, and you know the instructor will do quite a bit of work to make you comfortable with the test. And then again, before part two of the test, the instructor will do a little workshop with you about the particulars of the test. As I said, the instructor will probably even go through, you know, the instructions with you, make sure everybody's all set. So, you know, you will have an introduction before each part that will help you to feel very comfortable with the test. And as I've said, the test shows your level and your language strengths and weaknesses. And this isn't, you know, some tests, people have to learn how to take the test. But for this, it's more, I find that students are more relaxed taking this test, and it truly just shows what students do and don't know. And our experience when we give this test on campus in person is that students come out of the test feeling, you know, kind of okay. They're not exhausted. They feel, okay, yeah, like I could do that. And yeah, so I don't think it's something to really worry about or to feel, you know, to get all anxious about. I think you should just feel relaxed about it and just go in with the attitude that you're just going to show us what you know. Okay, so you may have a couple of questions. So I have gone ahead and addressed these questions. So one question might be, what if I have been admitted to a level? So some of you, and I have your names on a list here beside me, some of you have already been admitted to a level. You have submitted maybe an IELTS score or a TOEFL score, something like that. And based on that score, you've been told you can be in Core English 3 or Foundations for University 1 or Foundations for University 2. The letter might say something different. It might say level 3, Core English, which is Core English 3. It might say level 4, Foundations for University 1 is what used to be level 4. And it might say level 5, and that's Foundations for University 2. But you've been put into a level already. Well, that's okay. That's great. But we're still going to ask you to take the test. And we do that for two reasons. One is that who knows? Maybe our test will put you in a higher level. Wouldn't that be great if you could be in a higher level than you think that you are already? And the other thing is that it will just tell us more about you, about your skills. We'll see. We'll have an actual writing sample, so we can see what you can and can't do in terms of your writing, for example. And so we always take the higher of the two scores. So if you do poorly on our test, but you have a foundations for University 1 direct admit, then we will take that. But if you have a foundations for University 1 admission, and then you do really well on our test, and you do and our test shows you can do foundations 2, well, then we'll take that. So we'll take the higher one. And as I said, the test will tell us more about your English skills. Okay, there's another question. What if I have an official test score and that you haven't, you're hiding it. You haven't told us about it yet, okay? Then you need to get that official test score in. And I would really like it in by August 28th. I really, we need to give our admissions people some time to look at it and to verify it and so on. So it would really be better if you could get it in sooner than later. And so if you have an official test score, so for example, if you have an IELTS, that's a 5.0 or higher, or if you have a TOEFL IBT of 60 and above, then those kinds of test scores, then you could submit it, and then you submit that to international admissions at trentu.ca. And then I think my final slide here is if you have other questions or concerns, so this might be a good one to take a photo of. You could contact Christine, who you met a few minutes ago, or you could contact me, okay? And we would be very happy to answer your questions. Okay, so then I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to just quickly, whoops, I'm just going to, come on, don't do that. I'm going to, there we go. I'm going to show you this, and then I'll look at your questions. Okay, so this is the Oxford site that I mentioned a few minutes ago. So this is, you just type in oxfordenglishTesting.com, and it will take you to this page. And then when you get to this page, it's easy to panic. It says sign into your account, and you think, I don't have an account. But look over here. It says
we can't see the screen.
Oh dear. Okay, you should be able to, but I'm gonna, this is what I'm gonna do.
We're still on other questions or concerns.
Okay, well then I'm gonna stop. Thank you, Christine, for telling me.
No problem.
And we're gonna do it again. Sometimes it will let you go from one to another. And, oh, now that was crazy. Why did that happen? Sometimes it will let you go from one to another, and sometimes it just won't. There, is that working?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll start again. So you type in up here, oxfordenglishTesting.com, and this is the page that it will bring you to. Then, over here, it says sign into your account, but ignore that. Go over here to the left, and it says find out more, and click there. And then in the middle, Oxford placement test. Okay, you want this one. You don't want the one for young learners. You want the middle one, Oxford Placement Test, and discover more. And now I have to admit, this test, this page, I think is really for teachers and administrators, people like me, but there are useful things on it, okay? So there's some information about the test. You know, I think that page is really kind of for teachers, but you know, you can look at it. But this page might be more useful to you. Test format. Okay, and so then this tells you maybe even in more detail what I have said. Okay, use of English, different types of questions, listening, different types of questions, and then more screenshots about the different types of questions. Okay, so these are different ones than I showed you. Okay. And and there are even some screenshots for listening questions, a couple of those. So you might want to have a look at that page if you are interested in more information about the Oxford test. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now. And okay, so I think that's really the end of my formal presentation. So let me see. And oh, Christine or someone has helpfully typed in some URLs for some links for magazines for the advanced test. That's good. Christine has typed in the link for the course sites and also for the student survey. If you haven't done that yet, that's great. Okay, and then somebody hinting to me about the screen share. And thank you for Christine for speaking up because I wasn't looking at.
And we have a question in the Q&A box from Elizabeth.
Okay, the Q&A. Oh, there we go, Q&A box. Okay, good. Will we be taking the placement test on the course site? Yes, so what will happen is that in the next few days, week, something like that, we will send you more information about orientation, and we'll send you a Zoom link for orientation. And yes, we will use course sites as sort of the location for the placement test, especially the writing part of the test. So you'll be on Zoom. You'll be kind of doing two things. You'll be on Zoom so that you can see the instructor and the instructor can see you. And then your instructor will send you a link for the Oxford test and you'll work on that. And then for the writing test, yes, the question and everything will be, and the article and everything will be on course sites. And you will upload your writing to course sites. So that will be definitely the platform that you will be using for part 2 of the test. All right, do we have any other questions? So when are you taking the test? Okay, so this is a good question. So orientation will be September 3rd and 4th. And so we're going to start at 9 a.m. my time, okay? 9 a.m. on September 3rd. And on September 3rd, first we'll spend an hour together. So just having a little introduction to the program, maybe getting to know each other a little bit. And then for those of you who are in our time zone or who are really keen and can stay up late, you could take the Oxford test after that. So I think I've got it like 10:30 to 12:30, something like that. And for those of you who are, maybe in Asia and that's not so convenient, we will have an evening time as well, evening hour time. So 8 to 10 p.m. So it would maybe be 8 to 10 a.m. for you the next day. And then for those of you in our time zone, then in what would be our afternoon, we'll go ahead and do the writing test. And then for those of you who are not in our time zone, then we'll do the writing test for you on what would be our Friday morning at 9 a.m. So I hope that makes sense. So we're going to have sort of 2 times, one session for people who are in our time zone and one session for people who are maybe in an Asian time zone or a very different time zone. And all of that schedule, it's not on course sites yet because we're just finalizing it. People have been on holidays and things. We need to talk to them. We've sort of said, we think we're going to do the test then. Are you available then? So when people come back from holidays and we get everything finalized early next week, then we will put the final schedule on course sites. And then you can see clearly when everything will be. But the short answer is September 3rd and 4th. And so then I hope that we will have the results maybe by the end of the day on Friday the 4th, but for sure by first thing on Tuesday the 8th in the morning. The Monday is a holiday here for us in Canada, in Ontario. But for sure, by the Tuesday morning, we will have all your results and we will be able to tell you your level. And then classes will begin on Thursday, the 10th. If I can't, I have a question. If I can't come to the orientation, what could possibly happen? Oh dear. That could be a little bit of a problem, but we specialize in solving problems. So if you really can't come to the orientation, then perhaps you should email Christine and or me, and then we will make another plan for you. Okay, do you have any other questions? I'm looking in the chat and I'm looking in the Q&A. Well, that's okay. I've been doing this a long time, so I kind of think I know what student questions are. So I tried to address them in the presentation. So I think that's okay. I really want to thank you all for coming. Bernard is flagging me like he has something that he wants to say. So I'm going to give Bernard a moment, but I really want to thank you all for coming. Oh, now we have another question. Okay, we have a question. Just want to make sure again, when's the test date? So the test date is Thursday, September 3rd, and Friday, September 4th. If you are in this time zone, if you're in Canada, then probably you can get it all done on Thursday. If you are in Asia, then you might be in a little bit on Thursday and a little bit on Friday. And again, the schedule will be on course sites probably next week. Well, definitely next week. And so then you'll have all the details, and we will email you again. We'll send you the schedule, but you can look on course sites. Okay, and then we have this question. How is our class going to be for this fall due to COVID-19? Okay, so if you got the email from Christine, which I think everybody did, oh, except maybe the person who asked the question. I don't see your name on my little list. So maybe, so we're gonna have 3 ways that you can be with us this fall. There's going to be a class on campus, okay? Well, or maybe a couple of classes at different levels on campus. And then, so some students on campus, then some students who are maybe in a similar time zone to us, maybe students who are staying with relatives in Toronto because of COVID, something like that. They can join that on-campus class, but via Zoom, just like we are right now. So you can be in the class in real time, talking with your teacher on Zoom. Then some students who maybe are still in China or Vietnam or some other place that has a really different, in a really different time zone, we want you to come to class every day, 9 to 11. So you would be with that same little group, the little group that's on campus and some people studying Zoom. You would be on Zoom 9 to 11. And then if you really want to go to bed then and get some sleep, then that's okay, because we will record the classes, and then you can take the other classes. You can look at the recordings of the other classes. But we really do want everyone there 9 to 11 every day. And then the people in this time zone, we want them there all day. But the people in other time zones, we really, really want you there 9 to 11 every day, so that you can take tests with the class and you can be in class discussions with the class, things like that. Okay, so I hope that answers that question. All right, well, I think that is all. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email Christine, and please register for course sites, and please send in your survey for Christine, so we know how you want to study.